In this video, I'll talk about the number one complaint that I hear from the Excel users. The number one complaint I hear from Excel users is that they cannot load large files. When I talk to Excel users, many are generally satisfied with the software. However, they often encounter a common problem. Large files they either cannot open or work with efficiently. So what do I suggest? I recommend using R to process and reduce the file size and then open the smaller, more manageable version in Excel. In this tutorial, I'll walk you through 4 methods to achieve that. Number 1 is to limit the rows. So you create a file that contains only top 500 or 1000 rows of the larger file, and that is easy to open. If you want to scan through the file, this might be the best option. The second option is to select specific columns. Maybe the file you are trying to load has 500 columns and you are only interested in 5 or 6. So in R, you discard the columns that you don't need and then open the smaller size in Excel. The third option is more complicated, which is to filter rows. Let's say you are interested in specific subset of data, such as, for example, you are working with a dataset with the entire US population and you are only interested in the state of New York. So you filter the rows that match your criteria and then load that smaller file in Excel. And then the number 4 option is to create new columns. So sometimes you may need to create some columns. For example, you have scores of a large number of students in 5 or 10 different subjects, and only thing that you need is the total. So you use R to create the total column, and then you only keep the name and the total score and discard the rest of the data. Let me walk you through an example of how to accomplish each of those 4 ways to shrink a large file. I created a file for this exercise with names, addresses, and zip codes of a number of people. I have 500 entries. That's not a large file as such, but all of the methods that I'll show you should work for any larger file. So the first thing you do is to change your folder in R to go to where the file currently is. It's currently in my desktop, so I'm going to change it to desktop and then select folder. Now, next I'll do library tidyverse to load the tidyverse library. And that takes a couple of seconds and then I'll get the tidyverse loaded. The other thing I need to do is to run library read Excel, because I'm going to show you how to read an Excel file. Now, read Excel does not need to be installed. It's already installed with tidyverse. But if you are using Excel file, you need to also load this package. Okay, so we are all ready. Now, let's clear the screen with Control L and show you some of the steps. The first thing I'll do is load the TSV file. I have 2 files. One is the data.tsv and the other one is data.xls. Both have the same content, but one in Excel format, the other in tab delimited format. You can also have the file in CSV format, which is comma separated, but the methods will be similar. So to read the tab delimited file, I run x equals read underscore tsv and then data.tsv. If you have comma delimited file or CSV file, this command will be read underscore CSV. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to do read underscore TSV. The file is read. If I do X, it shows the first 10 lines of the data frame. So the original file is read as a data frame and the top 10 lines are shown. The file is described as a table, which is just a data frame, but with the added advantage that when you type the name, it only shows the first 10 lines instead of the entire data frame. So this is a benefit for large files. Now, if you want to see the entire file, you need to do something like this: x percent getter percent as dot data dot frame, and that will show the entire file, and it's big, so you have it broken into multiple pages. So you can see it here. Let me make it bigger, and then the file will probably show together. Yeah, so now it's being shown together. So you have 500 entries, but you get the same idea by just printing X, because that shows you all of the columns. You don't see every entry, but you get the sense of what kind of materials is that present in the data. Now, first thing I wanted to show is how you can turn it into a smaller file and then save that and read in Excel. So to do that, you do X percent getter percent head 50 or any other number. So head command takes a data frame and keeps the first X number of files, 50 entries. If you do head 100, it will keep the first 100 entries. So here, when I do X percent getter percent head 50, it just shows a new table with 50 entries. To save the file, what you need to do is give it a new name, y equals x dot under a percent getter percent head 50, and then do y percent getter percent write tsv, and then give a new name, data dot data2 dot tsv. So you will have a new tab delimited file saved, and you should be able to open that in Excel. Let's clear the screen and show the second method. So this time I am going to pick only two columns, maybe the first and last column and the zip column. So, and then save that in a data frame. So what I have to do is X percent getter percent select, and then first, last, and then zip. And that just shows the new table on the screen. But if you save it in Y, then it'll be saved in a different variable, and then you do write CSV, TSV data2.tsv. In fact, you don't even have to go through all these steps. You can also do this and then write underscore TSV data2.tsv. Okay. That should take care of saving part. So this time I picked only 3 columns of the original data frame and then saved as a new file. The next method is to do a filter and then save that in the data frame. So if you look at the original data frame, it has first, last, address, city, state, and zip. Let's say I am only interested in those living in Maryland. So I want to filter and then store that into a file. So if you, to do filter, you do state equal f mmd. So that gives you only those entries of X which have state as MD, and you can see it's a table with 17 entries. So instead of showing it on the screen, you can do write underscore TSV and then give data2.tsv. And if you open the data2 file in Excel, you should have only those entries which are linked to Maryland. The last method is you can create a new file or new column and then save that into a data frame. So to do that, you do X mutate. Let's say I want the full name as first name and last name. So the command for that is paste 0, first, okay, so now you see that you have first, last, address, city, state, zip, and full, but there is a problem. I have the entire name joined together without any gap. So I want to do first, space, and last. Now I have the first name and last name separated by space. So now what I can do is just filter the full name and zip. Let's say I'm interested in only the full name and zip. So now I'm going to select full and zip. That gives me only the full name and zip. And now, then I can save that as a data frame. All right, and that saves the data frame, and you can now work with Excel on the smaller file. I'm going to go over each of these commands, the select, filter, mutate, and there is one more command I'll show here. I'll go over each of these commands in separate videos because there are many options for many different types of data and many different types of operations. So the last thing I want to show is you can also sort the file and then save it. To do sort, let's say I want to sort them as in terms of the zip code. The command for that is arrange zip. So now you can see all names are sorted based on the zip code, and you have 000, and then the bottom will be all zip codes starting with 99. And you can now save the sorted file in your second data set. All right, so these are the 4 commands by which you can simplify an Excel spreadsheet and then make it smaller and use that to get it read easily. I'm going to go over each of those commands in a separate video.